Hi, eighth graders. This is Module 3. And so the first lesson in Module 3 is solve linear equations. This activity, they usually have something like this at the beginning of every module. So this rent-a-tent, it's optional for sure. But if you want to just talk about it with your teacher parent, that would be great. But if you want to skip it, that's fine too. This next page, the Are You Ready? You should always do this. It's just a quick check to see if you have the skills and concepts that you need for Module 3. Usually the Are You Ready at the beginning of each module will be fairly easy for you. So I would encourage you to always do it. And if there's anything that's a little tricky, then just go back and take a few minutes and review that concept or that process, and then go ahead and go into the module. So we'll go to the next page and get started. So this first page, of lesson 1, the Spark Your Learning, let's first look at the I can statement. It says, I can solve linear equations with integer and rational number coefficients. So think about what is an integer, make sure you remember that, and what is a rational number, and what's the difference between those two things. So if you're not sure, you can stop and kind of look those up and then start again. So I would always suggest that you try the Spark Your Learning, because it's usually something kind of cool that gets you into thinking the way they're going to be talking in the module. So let's look at this. Jordan buys 2 new jerseys, so buys 2 of these. She pays the price shown for the glove and gives the clerk 2 $50 bills to pay the exact amount. How much does Jordan pay for each jersey? So they're asking about, she bought 2 and this glove costs this much, and she gave the clerk 2 50s, and that was the exact amount for everything that she bought, 2 jerseys and 1 glove. So it says write and solve an equation. So that's good practice, thinking about what they're asking and writing your own equation and then solving it. And then they ask, what would the equation and solution be if Jordan gives the clerk a single $100 bill? Is there a difference? How are the equations alike or different? How is the process of solving the equations alike or different? So go ahead and take some time and do that here, and then you can go to build understanding. All right, so let's look at the build understanding. It says in number 1, a batting machine uses an automatic baseball feeder. During the baseball practice, the feeder is 1/6 full. An attendant fills it with 15 baseballs to the feeder, so that the feeder is now 2/3 full. How many baseballs does the feeder hold when full? So I would suggest, so they give you help here. I would suggest, if you haven't already looked at it too much, cover that up and try to write your own equation before you look at the one that they give you. And if you just can't, then you can look at the help they give here. And I would also say, think about what in this equation, what does x represent? And think about why this equation works. If you wrote a different equation or had a different way of maybe writing an equation, how does that help you? What does x mean? Think about all those things. So then they say B, in order to isolate the variable, that's highlighted, so that's important. All terms containing x need to be on one side of the equation, so one side of this equal sign, and then you're trying to get everything else on the other side of the equal sign. How can you isolate the variable in the equation? What is the resulting equation before simplifying? So go ahead and do B. Solve the equation for x in C. So again, they're just taking you step by step through the process of how you might do this. There may be other ways, but they give a good example of a step-by-step process. Then D, look back at the original equation up here. How could you use least common denominator of fractions to rewrite the equation with an integer coefficient? So that's an interesting question. And remember that the coefficient is the number multiplied by the variable. So if I have 3x, for example, 3 is my coefficient. Here they have 1/6 x, so that is a rational number coefficient. 1/6 is the coefficient there. And then what is the new equation? Solve this new equation. Did you get the same solution? And so this is an example of a linear equation with only one solution. So that's this first part. If you want to try this turn and talk, which equation did you prefer to work with? So they're saying this one or the one when they ask you to try to have an integer coefficient. So think about that as well. So pause the video here, work on that. So these two pages are the on your own. So those you do on your own.